Hello, welcome to Algorithmz. My name is Saurabh, and today we are going to discuss about DevSecOps architecture in Azure. We know that DevOps adoption is at rapid pace, and security has become one of the challenge because security, uh, at least nowadays, has become a prime concern for businesses that are storing any sort of customer client data. And DevSecOps involves utilizing security best practices right from the beginning of development. So one part is theoretical, which says that okay, it is the best practice. Now the second part, which is how we incorporate that security in the DevOps architecture. So this is what we are going to highlight. But before we get into that, uh, some of the statistics that I want to share with you guys uh, from the vulnerabilities perspective or from the deficiency perspective, that where it is coming from. So it is pretty much clear that 53% of the breaches are caused by weakness in applications, and 47% of the breaches are caused by the configurations. Now, open source is a very used terminology, as well as uh, if you look at the use of open source packages or open source code usage is extensive. This data has been taken from Forrester research done in 2018, and you see 99% of the organizations make extensive use of open source, and 90% of new application development leverages open source. If you have heard about a data breach in 2016 or 17 in a reputed financial institution, where vulnerability in one of the dependent object was utilized to hack the application, and and that vulnerability was called out by the security organizations or CVE organizations, Mitre attack organization, 2 months before it was being attacked. But since there was no scanning of applications done in that time frame, hence it was not called out and it could not be fixed. So this attack could have been avoided, and that's one of the lessons learned, and it reflects the importance of the security integration right in the beginning of the development, and to make sure that we call out the vulnerabilities right in the development stages, rather than waiting for the security and audit team to look at the deployments in the staging area and then go back. So but all of these things can be automated, and that's where it brings value, because if it is automated, it takes less time. It is just a matter of how you configure it and what tools are you using. Now in this presentation, we have incorporated different tools. So from infrastructure as a code perspective, we have taken care of Terraform. We are looking at application gateway. We are talking about orchestration of Docker containers using Azure Kubernetes service, container registry, key vault. We are looking at B2C, like Azure AD, business to consumer, and multi-factor authentication, and how they are connecting to the AKS using application gateway. And then multi-factor authentication on how we integrate identities with a GitHub as well. Now let's look at the different components. So Azure Active Directory can provide identity and access management services, and it allows control over access to other resources which are inside Azure, GitHub Enterprise and Azure DevOps. So now you see, once you have identity sorted out, and then you can integrate your Azure AD with your Azure environment. Azure environment, I would say, is GitHub Enterprise and Azure DevOps, and all the resources which are inside Azure. Now your source code is hosted on GitHub Enterprise, where developers can collaborate within your organization and the open source communities. Now GitHub also offers advanced security features and some scans which you can deploy or configure right after the build stage. So for instance, container scanning, license scanning, static code scanning, Those are the things that you can configure right after the build stage, and just to make sure that before it goes into the staging area, all these scans have happened and any vulnerability has been called out, and if there is any severe or high risk, it has to be addressed by the respective team. Azure boards, it helps you plan your work and track progress. Azure pipeline, we all know, so continuous integration and continuous development. Docker container images, we are using Azure Container Registry, and this service includes container image scanning with the integration of Azure Security Center. So there are third-party tools as well as it can be done. Means container scanning can be done with the Azure Security Center. It is just a matter of configuration, how you configure it. It is very easy configuration. You just need to share the keys and it's all can be taken care in an automated manner. Now, Azure Kubernetes service, we all know it is just to orchestrate your Docker images. And Terraform, it's a third-party product by HashiCorp. So it allows automation of your infrastructure on Azure. Azure Policy helps you create and manage gates. So for instance, these policies enforce different rules and effects over your resources. So your resources stay compliant with your corporate standards and SLAs, and Azure Policy can integrate with the Azure Kubernetes services too. Azure Key Vault, you can store certificates, connection strings, tokens, and other secrets, and these are read by your application at runtime, so they are abstracted away from your developer, so you don't need to store these connection strings, certificates, tokens, and secrets, etc. in your repository. It is stored in a Key Vault in a secure manner. Cosmos DB, again, we all know about Cosmos DB. Azure Application Gateway is a layer 7 load balancer with the support of advanced routing rules and a web application firewall. The reason I have used it here, because we are using we are displaying end users who are not part of the organization, but they are using Azure AD B2C services. You can enable multi-factor authentication as well. So this is just to make sure we are trying to achieve a zero trust architecture in the DevSecOps, and that's the reason. Means there are different methods depending upon who is the consumer. It can be configured in a different architecture as well, but as I said, we are targeting zero trust architecture, and that's the reason application gateway is being utilized. Multi-factor authentication as well as identities are utilized in this scenarios. Monitor, Azure Monitor, it lets you get insights on the availability and performance of your application and the infrastructure. And Azure AD B2C, I just explained, it is just identity services to consumers of your application, even if they are not part of your organization. Now, if you have any questions on this, please post that in comment section below, and we will address those questions. If you have any any project where you are trying to implement security in the DevOps environment, and you are looking for a right point of departure and you don't have the right skill set within the organization, you can talk to us and we can help you build a strong architecture and help you deploy that architecture as well, depending upon your budget. Means, as I said, means the what I displayed here is a zero trust architecture, but at the same time we understand the cost pressures, but at the same time we need to look at the security from a perspective that whatever we are delivering to the customers or within the organizations, whether it is staff or customers, it is secure, and we are securing our organization perimeter as well in order to serve our customers better. Now, thank you very much. Have a great day.